Shanvala Gilivaranta Shodhanandana Brajanara Yashodhanandana Brajanara Yamunatira Vanchari Yamunatira Vanchari Krishna Hare Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Prabhupada. Nitya Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitya Gaura Hari Bol. Desi Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki, Ananda Buddha Vaishnava ki, Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki, Gandhara Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Shishi Panchatattva ki, Shishi Radha Govinda Dev ki, Gaur Premanande, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, glories to Shishi Guru and Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 reading from the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 1, text number 41. Has everyone got a Bhagavad Gita or online Bhagavad Gita? Yeah. Do you want to borrow that one?
Yeah, sure. I think I let it home. Chapter 1.
Reading the Sanskrit as well, and I'm not kind of passing it around to read because the microphone doesn't catch it all. So I'll just keep reading it. But you can, as we go along, you can make different points as well. Okay. Shankaro narakayaiva kula granham kulasya patanti pitaro yesham lupta pindo takakriya. And translation. An increase of unwanted population certainly causes hellish life, both for the family and for those who destroy the family tradition. The ancestors of such corrupt families fall down because the performances for offering them food and water are entirely stopped. Purport. According to the rules and regulations of fruitive activities, there is a need to offer periodical food and water to the forefathers of the family. This offering is performed by worship of Vishnu, because eating the remnants of food offered to Vishnu can deliver one from all kinds of sinful reactions. Sometimes the forefathers may be suffering from various types of sinful reactions, and sometimes some of them cannot even acquire a gross material body and are forced to remain in subtle bodies as ghosts. Thus, when remnants of prasadam food are offered to forefathers by descendants, the forefathers are released from ghostly or other kinds of miserable life. Such help rendered to forefathers is a family tradition, and those who are not in devotional life are required to perform such rituals. One who is engaged in the devotional life is not required to perform such actions. Simply by performing devotional service, one can deliver hundreds and thousands of forefathers from all kinds of misery. It is stated in the Bhagavatam 11.5.41, Devarshik bhutatman vinam pitanam nakinkaro nityam vinicharajan sarvatmano yaksharanam sharanyam gato makondam pararichikatam. Anyone who has taken shelter of the lotus feet of Mukunda, the giver of liberation, giving up all kinds of obligation, and has taken to the path in all seriousness, owes neither duties nor obligations to the demigods, sages, general living entities, family members, humankind, or forefathers. Such obligations are automatically fulfilled by performance of devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. I spoke about this verse earlier, and it was mainly the purport because I think that's something which is quite new to a lot of people, that you can actually offer something to your forefathers and that they will be benefited. It's definitely quite true to people in the West, because they won't have, that's not such something which they normally would think about. I mean, there's a specific festival called All Saints and All Souls Day in November the 1st, November the 2nd in the Christian tradition. But it's not that elaborate, and actually it's something which is not really practiced that much anymore, as far as I'm aware. But this is very clear in the Vedic scripture what is done and why it's done, and it's kind of assuming so many things as well. You know, it's assuming that we're all souls, that we don't die, that the soul lives on, and that there's also such a thing as a subtle body as well, which a lot of people also don't kind of get the hang of.
Sorry, man. Yeah. I heard the term subtle body, and what does that mean?
Subtle body, yeah. Subtle body is the mind the intelligence, and the most subtle is the false ego. The false ego, that's probably that's the one that's the most difficult to get. And then that's a very, very good question. Yeah. I just want to read one section from the Bhagavatam just specifically on that, which I thought was really good, which I discovered this week. One second. Yes. First canto, part 1. It's first canto, part 1, and it's chapter 3. Chapter 3. And it's in the purport. The reason that I mentioned it is because it talks about the false ego, because you're asking about the subtle body and what it is. And this is one of the best descriptions I've heard of it, or the best kind of conceptions about it. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is also mentioned that the material world is created at certain intervals and then again destroyed. Okay, that's something. This creation and destruction is done by the supreme will because of the conditioned souls or the Nityabada of the living beings. The Nityabada, this is the main sentence, it's kind of the Nityabada, or the eternally conditioned souls, have the sense of individuality, or ahankar, that means the false ego, which dictates them sense enjoyment. So that's what it dictates to us sense enjoyment. I want this, I want that, I want this, I want this. I am a person. So it's like this is what the false ego is. It dictates sense enjoyment. And then Prabhupada says, which they are unable to have constitutionally. You know, it's just a really interesting way the way Prabhupada put it, is that we cannot have sense enjoyment, you know. We cannot really enjoy it. We cannot be enjoyers. Do you know? We want to be enjoyers, but because we are not enjoyers, therefore, constitutionally, we're the servant. You know, like God is the supreme, and we're the servant of the supreme. So, us trying to be enjoyers, this is the sense of false ego. We're trying to take God's position because God is the supreme enjoyer, because He owns everything. You know, He's in every atom. You know, all the universes are coming from Him. We're coming from Him. We're kind of a small, tiny part of Him, but we have a particular relationship with Him in that sense. So, and that is that we are the servant of the Supreme, and then we can be happy. You know, that's the real sense of happiness. But because the false ego is the false sense that I've got this body and mind and intelligence, and it's trying to enjoy, but it's not correct. It's not meant to do that. It doesn't have the functionality to do that. You know, it is not set up in such a way that it can enjoy. But it's set up in such a way that it can be a servant. So if we can learn to be servants, then we'll be happy. But we want to enjoy, and that's what the false ego is.
Those are the very sense enjoyment or gratification. The very sense, say, food or water, clean air. That's a sense enjoyment, but it's a good one rather than something more extreme. You know.
Yeah, I know. It's not. You know, you can't suddenly. Okay, senses, stop enjoying now. Stop. What did you do that for? And you often see sometimes people they kind of. I know there's in this Christian term this term flagellation. You beat yourself up and whatever, because the senses this is what their natural tendency is to do. But that's set up in the body like that, you know, and it's something which Krishna is allowing us the opportunity to try to be like that, because that's ultimately where it came from. We're trying to be, so we can't be in the spiritual world. So therefore, he set up this whole situation, this whole material world is set up so that we can give us an attempt to try to enjoy this. But at the same time, it's also set up like a learning place as well, to realize that we can't enjoy this. But we can, if we learn to be servant in this, then we can be happy again, and we can regain our position in the spiritual world. Anyway, it was just the way Prabhupada mentioned it at that time, that it dictates them sense enjoyment. That's the false ego, which is the subtle body, which they are able to have constitutionally. The Lord is the only enjoyer, and all others are enjoyed. The living beings are predominated enjoyers. But the eternally conditioned souls, forgetful of this constitutional position, have strong aspirations to enjoy. The chance to enjoy matter is given to the conditioned souls in the material world, and side by side, they are given the chance to understand their real constitutional position. Those fortunate entities who catch the truth and surrender unto the lotus feet of Vasudeva after many, many births in the material world, join the eternally liberated souls, and thus are allowed to enter into the kingdom of Godhead. After this, such fortunate living entities need not come back again within the occasional material creation. But those who cannot catch the constitutional truth are again merged into the Mahatattva at the time of annihilation of the material creation. And when the creation is again set up, this Mahatattva is again let loose. This Mahatattva contains all the ingredients of the material manifestation, including the conditioned souls. Then it kind of goes on, but I just wanted to explain about those, that particular point.
It was my understanding that the soul is a subtle body, isn't it?
No, it's amazing, isn't it? Yeah, the soul is beyond the material bodies, beyond matter, and intelligence, mind intelligence, and false ego. They're the subtle matter. We can't see them. We can't see the mind. But the amazing thing is that at the point of death, the subtle body, the mind intelligence, and the false ego, it carries the soul onto its next body as well. So it is an incredible setup. It's just an amazing system that Krishna has created. But the self is beyond any of the coverings, either the gross or the subtle. So, yeah. Okay. Thank you for those questions. I wanted to speak that somewhere in the class, so it's good that I got it out at the beginning in case we missed it later on. But definitely have a look at it, because in a few sentences, and that's the incredible artistry of Srila Prabhupada in some of these purports. In a few sentences, the whole philosophy can be there, and presented in an amazing way. So, but yeah. Okay, I'll just ask a question. I'll ask a question, and it's what is the other main point that was made in that purport, in that first purport?
What is that?
What is the other main point in that purport? There was one other. It was telling about the Pitris, the forefathers, and how they can be looked after. But there was another point as well that was made.
Devotion.
Devotion, yes. Devotion is. What does devotion do?
We don't have to do the physical thing.
Yes. We don't have to do all these different rituals and things like that. Yeah. Funny, I had a friend actually who joined at the same time as I did. I won't say the date, but he was his dad, I think, was the ambassador or something like that, the Indian ambassador to Ireland, and So they only came to Ireland for a couple of years, you know. But during that time, both himself and his sister both became full-time Hare Krishna members. So he joined with me at the time, and this was the one he used to quote at me all the time, because he was joined a little bit before me, but so he was always saying this particular verse, because, you know, I know as well that the very good side to the you know, to families in that sense in India is that they're very close, which is very important. You know, it's very important for social life. But it also can be as well. Sometimes it can be overemphasized as well. It's not emphasized enough in the West, but it's maybe slightly overemphasized in India, and because he wanted also to become a full-time devotee, and he wanted to perform devotion service. And although his parents initially were a little reluctant about it, and they also sort of, you know, they were quite happy towards the end, and you know, they relented in that sense, and they understood how amazing it was. And I know his daughter, that's my friend's sister. She moved to, I think it was Washington, so, and she's still there at the moment. Very, very, very strong devotee, very, very good sadhana, great speaker and everything. And my friend, he lives over there as well in Washington now himself. You know, but I always remember him when that first comes up. But yeah, that's the main thing, is that, you know, that by performing devotional service, we don't have to perform all of those things. So, yeah. Does everybody here perform devotional service? Correct. We try. We try to perform devotional service as much as we can. We put all our endeavor into trying to do so, and even to the degree that we do, we will help all our relatives, you know, for many generations. It's very, very beneficial and powerful for everyone. Okay, so those were 2 points in that. So next, Doshaya Eka Kula Gnanam Varna Shankara Karakai Utsajante Jati Dharma Kula Dharmas Chashashvataha. By the evil deeds of those who destroy the family tradition and thus give rise to unwanted children, all kinds of community projects and family welfare activities are devastated. Purport. Community projects for the 4 orders of human society combined with family welfare activities as they are set forth by the institution of Sanatana Dharma or Varnashram Dharma, are designed to enable the human being to attain his ultimate salvation. Therefore, the breaking of the Sanatana Dharma tradition by irresponsible leaders of society brings about chaos in that society. And consequently, people forget the aim of life, Vishnu. Such leaders are called blind, and persons who follow such leaders are sure to be led into chaos. It tends to describe the society that we live in today. There's so much chaos. So if we had a discussion this morning on our ISKCON Dublin thread about how that the society in Ireland is about to kill 200,000 cows. Is it completely or every year? Does anyone know? Is it in the next few years? Yeah. So, I mean, anybody who's a participant in that is in for a dark time, basically. It is extremely heavy karma collectively when something like that happens. But as I think somebody pointed out, but they're going to kill them anyway. They're doing this anyway for there's 7 million cows in Ireland or something. I think the figure was it 11 million something, 7 million or 11. 6, is it? Yeah. So all of them will be killed.
200,000.
Yeah. Of them, yeah. But all the 6 million are going to be killed anyway. There's none of them going to survive. So that's really very, very serious, And we talked about how or what we can do. There's some. I don't want to discourage anybody, because they were talking about how they could try to make some impact with the government sources, but it's highly unlikely for that to happen, in my opinion, anyway. But at the same time, we should try. We have to try something. And even our own efforts are very tiny. But we do have to perform those efforts now at the same time, because then Krishna will be pleased, or God will be pleased. And the whole change about that we have to do is for the people in this island to appreciate that if they look after the cows and actually worship them, which they used to do, maybe hundreds of thousands of years ago, and then the whole society will be peaceful, and there will be harmony in people's lives, and there will be an awful lot of chaos, which is described here. So they're the type of things that we can try to do in our small society. And also, we were talking to one of our very advanced devotees, Narayani Mataji, who was here recently, and she said that, of course, that and also kirtan, kirtan, which we can do anytime, all the time, all the time. Like we have many opportunities, kirtan melas, harinams, all of these things which we're always trying to present to people. And through our books as well, so that people can study them, so that they can understand this point that if you're worshipping Surabi, it is I don't have all the Shastra behind me, but there's so much good fortune comes from that. It's absolutely phenomenal, the amount of good fortune that can happen. And in fact, society can only function in that way. It's the cow is actually central to the whole Brahminical culture, So even more important than the Brahmanas are the cows. So the Brahmanas, because they have to use and also the liquid religion, which is milk, and Dharma in the shape of a bull, and Dharma as regards milk. So this country on the far-flung west of Europe hasn't got that message yet. So if we can somehow or other introduce it to whatever degree we can. Of course, Purushottam started the vegetarian restaurants back in the 90s in South Africa. That was part of their whole mission, was to present the vegetarian food to as many people as possible, and it has had an impact. We noticed in Australia and places like that, people really like our food. So anyway, that's just relating to this point about misguided rulers, and this is what happens when Varna Shankara are introduced into society, and this is we're getting back to the point where Arjuna is. Maybe could you close the door just to? Arjuna is he's trying to find out what to do. Now, another point I want to make now before I forget it is that you'll notice in these purports that Srila Prabhupada, he's explaining all the time what a very nice soul that Arjuna is. He's saying that he's pure soul in purport after purport after purport after purport. Initially, but we know that in the Bhagavad Gita that Arjuna is here at this point, he's making a mistake, isn't it? In the sense that he's not going to fight. Well, that's not what he's meant to do. He's meant to fight in the situation. I mean, we went through all the reasons why he had to fight. We won't go through them again, but you can take it for granted that he did have to fight. But he wasn't going to fight, so therefore he was going to do the wrong thing. So therefore Arjuna is put into illusion here at this point, in one sense, so that he can speak, so Krishna can speak Bhagavad Gita. But at the same time, his response is the response of a devotee. Do you know? He's responding very well. He's all these arguments, and you'll see in the purports, Prabhupada is using the arguments that Arjuna is thinking why he shouldn't fight. You know, and all those arguments are really important arguments. You know, society will be disturbed, and you know, like this verse, the last verse about the offering of the pinda. You know, that there's so many things that are disturbed when the Vedic society, and then Prabhupada also is introducing this. Remember, this is the Bhagavad Gita, the first chapter. He's introducing the 4 varnas and the 4 ashrams as well, which is we'll see later. It's a very important Krishna's chapter of Varna Maya Shrishtam Guru Karma Vibhaga. These are the 4 varnas and ashrams which are very important for society to function in a proper way. And Prabhupada often mentioned that it's not as if, oh yeah, this is something new. No, this is already in society anywhere, anyway. You know, you'll see it. There's a natural group of people who are intellectuals. There's a certain group of people who are politicians, leaders. There's a certain amount of people who are into banking, who are into the economy, into protection of animals and producing foodstuffs. And then there's a kind of the laborer class, in that sense that probably would use the communist governments at that time, and of course communist societies were very much the worker was the boss, you know. But actually, you can't artificially change all of that. Do you know what I'm saying? That's actually there. So it's I don't know if everybody got that point. I'm not sure if that was followed about the different classes in society. But anyway, we can discuss that again. But I did want to get that point in that Prabhupada is constantly saying that Arjuna is a very decent person, you know, and he's acting properly like as a pure devotee should act. But even while at the same time he's going to explain now in other places why he should act differently. So that's why I kind of titled the class this morning. I don't know if anybody read that, but it was on our. I'll just read it out.
Adversary.
Yes, what to do in time of adversity. That's right. Very good. Thank you. So Arjuna is very clearly in a very difficult situation now, as you can see, and he has to make how to act when there is adversity. And the main point that's made in the purport is that Arjuna is acting according to his own ideas, you know, what's coming to his mind, intelligence and false ego in that sense, you know, and that's often how we act. We act kind of based on the impact, the sensory impact, and how things are impacting us. We often make a decision based on those things. So, as devotees, what we're trying to do is we're trying to live our lives in such a way, in the mode of goodness, so that we can actually remain steady, even when there is adversity, because there is going to be adversity. The whole world is full of adversity. In fact, it was created that way. Krishna created it specifically so that we could find out how to act properly in this world. You'll notice that, and you'll notice it's coming up in the next chapter, Matra Sparshas to Kantiya Satoshna Sukadeva, that happiness and distress, fame and infamy, honor and dishonor, these are all. This is the a la carte menu for being in the material world. Do you know what I mean? This is what you get. You may want to be a very pious and nice person. Like most people, I'm a nice person. Why is this happening to me? What do you mean I'm like this? I'm not like this. You know, it's like we'll be both blamed, we'll be praised, but we'll also be blamed. So the thing is not to be overreacting to either, whether it's praise or blame. Some people, if they get blamed for something or if they get very depressed, you know. But that's what's going to happen. And if you get praise, you think, "Oh, I'm a great guy." You know, false ego goes way up, way beyond our situation. And so these are the type of things that we need to develop, so that we can act during adversity, because adversity definitely has the effect of, really throwing us, And it's not to say that, we're wrong if something bad happens or we're actually thrown. It's, sometimes I've said here, it's not how far you fall, it's how quickly you bounce back is the thing. So that you're ready, and you become kind of stable and rational in that sense, to be able to act and make a decision. And so we can expect adversity, and in fact, adversity is probably the best medicine. I was talking to a very learned devotee from Guatemala the other day, and he said one thing which was quite interesting. He said that the person who says something negative about you is probably your friend, because they probably say something that all your friends probably could say but don't really want to say because they don't want to hurt your feelings, But he was making that point, and it was kind of well taken, all right. Yeah, because and actually, it would actually help me listen to, because he was making a suggestion regarding how we could progress. I like bringing it back to kind of personal examples, so I apologize in advance if it's too personal, but we're trying to develop a retreat center in Govinda, and I mentioned to him that we have, we've got 33 beds there, and that's what we're trying to do, because they're going to, by Krishna's grace, lend us some Lakshmi to do the place up. But the person actually happens to run retreats, and we have 6 rooms, and we have 3 beds, but we have 3 mattresses under 3 beds, and 4 beds, 4 mattresses. Well, there's 8 people could easily stay in that room. And he kind of said to me, that was maybe back in the 60s or something, when everybody didn't mind just lying on the same floor or whatever. He says normally today 2 people go into a room, and that's about your lot. So he was kind of saying that you should cut your cloth according to your measure. Now, when he said that, like, my ire kind of went up like this, but I kind of managed to contain myself and then actually listen to what he was saying, and then I realized, yeah, he's right, of course, who's going to, we want to book a room there. Yes, well, you're in there with 4 other people who are lying on the floor. No, they want to have a room for themselves, And so, because by Krishna's grace, I was able to kind of hold back on that, and then I listened to what he said. Then we adjusted the plan, and they were much happier that we listened to them, So, that's not saying that when we have programs up there, we won't have 8 people in the room. Sometimes it's possible, but it was definitely that was a question of that sometimes we need to know from somebody else and want to hear from them regarding how we should act. But adversity is often the best medicine, and we see that in the 3rd, I think it's in the 3rd canto of the Bhagavad Gita, Queen Kunti. She prays for adversity. Why? Because when she does, she's always thinking of Krishna. Because when we don't have adversity, then the false ego comes back in again, the false ego comes. And when there isn't sort of difficulties happening, I know we've talked about this quite a lot, and when there isn't difficulties, we start to think, yes, I'm very good here. I can do this. I can do that. But when there are difficulties, then we're praying to Krishna. Please help. Please help. Please help. I need this. I need your help. I need your help. And then Krishna is there. Krishna actually is there. So that's what Queen Kunti wanted. But there's none of us very on that level where we're praying for adversity, which she was.
Some people say, yeah, some people pray for adversity to grow.
Yes,
Yeah, true.
yes,
But if you say, Christian, I need your help, I need your help,
yes.
help is given.
Yeah.
I'm not
More adversity.
That's for sure.
Yeah, yeah. The help is given in the sense that, but what it is actually is that he helps you actually deal with it. You know, he helps you remain steady, realizing that it's not the happiness and the stress are only temporary. They're not the real thing. That you're not shifted in happiness or stress, fame or infamy, honor or dishonor. You're focused on Krishna, on God within. So you're steady. You know. So that's the idea. You know. So that's why it's good. But you know, most of us won't actually pray for adversity. There's plenty of adversity will come anyway without praying for it. Yeah.
Another interesting thing that I've heard from somebody else was that, you know, it's like if a devotee in spiritual path to know his progress, the way he reacts to the way how he reacts to those negativity or the adverse situations will give an idea of his progress on the spiritual path.
Very good, yeah.
You know, if you're driven again by your senses and if you react to those things, then that means you are nowhere.
Yeah, well, it means that you have to go back to the drawing board, you know,
Yeah.
and you have to try again and start again. But that's very important, and this is one thing that Prabhupada says is that, you know, you don't need to have university degrees to know if you're advancing in spiritual life. You know, you just have to, as you say, you just have to see how you're responding to the different things that are going on. You know, so in that sense, it's very realistic. Spiritual life is very realistic, and that's why it's really good when it's practiced among devotees, you know, and people of like mind, because then you can discuss, you know, the different things that are going on, and you know, you can actually fortify each other and see how different people are responding and be encouraged by those responses. Because we do need all the encouragement that we can, because the atmosphere that we're surrounded by is also, as is said also in the Bhagavatam, it is pervaded by faithlessness. You know, the whole material Kali Yuga world. You know, most people they I know I'm bringing in another point here. Maybe it's a bit of a wider point, but means that there's so much negativity in the atmosphere that it affects us as well. You know, and we kind of lose faith, or we lose our ability to be strong in these situations. So that's why the sangha, or the association of devotees, where people are earnestly wanting to hear the messages of the Supreme, and then Krishna is very pleased at that situation, and then can uplift all of us. Prabhupada actually, and there's another point that Narayan is making as well, is that talking about Srimad Bhagavatam class on a regular basis. Prabhupada set it up in the morning times that to start your day, the devotees would discuss Bhagavatam, you know, and this would be very powerful for them. So that they could live their day and be immune to the different difficulties that are going on. You won't be attracting all the other things that are there in the material world. I'm going to just briefly, I might just finish off the verses and purports. I'll just read these reasonably quickly and then just see if there's any more comments or questions. Utsaham kula dharmanam, this is 43, sorry. Manusyanam janardana, narake nitnayata vasho, bhavatiti anushushama. O Krishna, maintainer of the people, I have heard by disciplic succession that those whose family traditions are destroyed dwell always in hell. Purport. Arjuna bases his argument not on his own personal experience, but on what he has heard from the authorities. This is the way of receiving real knowledge. One cannot reach the real point of factual knowledge without helped by the right person who is already established in that knowledge. There is a system in the Varnashram institution by which, before death, one has to undergo the process of atonement for his sinful activities. One who is always engaged in sinful activities must utilize the process of atonement called prayaschita. Without doing so, one surely will be transferred to hellish planets to undergo miserable lives as a result of sinful activities. Aho bata mahat papam 44. Kartam vyavasita vayam yadraja sukha lobhena antam svajanam ujjate. Alas, how strange it is that we are preparing to commit gratefully sinful acts, driven by the desire to enjoy royal happiness. Driven by the desire to enjoy real happiness, we are intent on killing our own kinsmen. Driven by selfish motives, one may be inclined to such sinful acts as the killing of one's own brother, father, or mother. There are many such instances in the history of the world, but Arjuna, being a saintly devotee of the Lord, is always conscious of moral principles and therefore takes care to avoid such activities. 145. Yadimam apitikara ashatam shastapanaya dhitarashtra ranayhanyas tannikshemataram bhavet. Better for me, if the sons of Dhritarashtra, weapons in hand, were to kill me unarmed and unresisting on the battlefield. Purport. It is the custom, according to Kshatriya fighting principles, that an unarmed and unwilling foe should not be attacked. Arjuna, however, decided that even if attacked by the enemy in such an awkward position, he would not fight. He did not consider how much the other party was bent upon fighting. All these symptoms are due to the soft-heartedness resulting from his being a great devotee of the Lord. 146. Sanjaya vacha ivam uktvarjuna sankhe rato pasta upavishat vishrija sosharam chapam shoka shambhigna manasa. Translation. Sanjaya said, Arjuna, having thus spoken on the battlefield, cast aside his bow and arrows and sat down on the chariot, his mind overwhelmed with grief. While observing the situation of his enemy, Arjuna stood up on the chariot, but he was so afflicted with lamentation that he sat down again, setting aside his bow and arrows. Such as a kind and soft-hearted person in the devotional service of the Lord is fit to receive self-knowledge. Such a kind and soft-hearted person in the devotional service of the Lord is fit to receive self-knowledge. So I just want to ask that question again. Why is Prabhupada describing Arjuna here as a, he's fit to receive self-knowledge? What are his characteristics here? I mean, it's a little bit obvious the answer, but it's just what we're dwelling on for a while, because we know for the rest of the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna's going to call Arjuna, you're speaking like an idiot, but Prabhupada is here praising Arjuna. So what were the reasons?
So they need to give up the kingdom or not harm someone else.
Yeah, and who in particular was it?
His relatives.
His relatives, yeah. Because, his relatives, especially because there's a paradox, his relatives on the other side are ready to kill him, So he's not ready to kill his relatives. So it's interesting. But you can see whose side Krishna is on. Krishna is on Arjuna's side, because he's a pure-hearted devotee. So I guess we're finished. Is there any other last-minute question anyone would like to? So we don't have the time. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you for joining. And, so we're on to chapter 2 next week. It takes 1 to 5. So please have a look at them and even bring along some questions or anything that you'd like to ask or discuss or comment on. It's always good, as I said, when we can discuss as well, because it has a powerful effect, because it's often what everybody's thinking but maybe not saying. And then somebody says, oh yeah, and then we can churn it up better. Hare Krishna. Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki.
Yeah.
Hare Bol. So now we're going to go to the next.